I remember first contact with humanity like it was yesterday. We had detected 2 atomic detonations in rapid succession. High Command dispatched A-ships to the yet unknown advanced race that was suffering from rapid nuclear disaster, only to find not only was the race woefully underdeveloped, they had weaponized atomic power. From the intercepted radio frequencies, we could deduce this was a savage war-like race, at the tail end of one global conflict, quickly turning into another one. Research stations were set up to document the eventual self-extermination of humanity, as they stockpiled more of these nuclear weapons, and were quickly forgotten about as the Federation found itself at war itself, only 5 years later. The unknown species, commonly referred to as the Swarm, invaded Federation-held space and slowly started devouring worlds, enslaving entire population centers and shipping them off slowly into unknown space for unknown reasons. The fleet had done its best, but was fighting a slow retreat, giving up world after world for 100 years, before some anthropologist researcher petitioned High Command for evacuation of Earth. Federation doctrine was to leave pre-FTL civilizations be, allow them to thrive or fail on their own. The anthropologist argued humanity had developed FTL theory under the name Alcubierre Drive. They simply haven't built it yet. And after some debate at the Galactic Senate, a fleet was dispatched to evacuate 5 million humans on the condition 5% of the evacuees would join the fleet. I was in command of that fleet, and first contact was interesting to say the least. We broadcast our message of peace and warning of the Swarm's imminent threat, and were met with hostility at first. The humans deployed rudimentary spacecraft against our fleet, threatening to use nuclear weapons against us, until they also detected the Swarm enter the star system, and confirm everything we had said. After some quick and tense negotiations with the United Nations, a proto-federation of their nation-states, they agreed to allow 5 million of their citizens to be evacuated, on the condition we leave all the small arms and space fighters we can, to give the rest of the world a fighting chance. I will admit I didn't expect this response. There were riots in the streets and civil unrest for sure, but the determination I saw in the military leaders, as my Marines hastily gave them instructions on how to use, maintain and produce munitions for the small arms, definitely gave me pause. These were men who were about to fight a hopeless fight, but if you listened to them, you'd think they had already won. They were joking with each other days before their utter defeat, but I had never seen a fighting force's morale higher. This should have been my first clue humanity was something different. But that didn't happen until days later, en route to the new home of humanity they dubbed Haven, when the call for recruitment was put out. We had explained to humanity that a minimum of 250,000 would be required to join the war effort for a minimum of 2 years to be granted emergency entrance to the Federation. When it was all said and done, 4.2 million of the 5 million humans had volunteered for service. For the first time in 100 years, the fleet had to turn down applicants for fear of extinction of a species. All in all, 3.5 million were eventually sworn into the fleet, and after training spread out among the ships, bolstering our numbers considerably. And while humanity had no natural talents to ship combat, that didn't stop them from being always quick to volunteer for dangerous missions. Always quick to come up with a plan to salvage a defeat into a stalemate. Despite all their flaws and primitive knowledge, humans clearly had a knack for war. Something we didn't account for was their knowledge of ground combat, something they called guerrilla warfare. And they would insert small strike teams of 10 to 20 members into swarm-held worlds, and build up a resistance using locals as soldiers. These cells would strike supply depots, food, and even shipyards, crippling the Swarm's war effort. In only a short year, the slow retreat ground to a halt, with the Swarm being forced to protect their spread-out back lines. Even sooner, we began to retake lost worlds, each time finding armies of locals turned into elite killers fighting beside their human teachers. With each liberated world, the new human Senate delegation would petition for an expedition be sent to Earth. Each time it was denied, due to being too deep in Swarm territory, and no way to support Earth once it was retaken. For 10 long years, the delegation would sigh and accept the news, and continue to do its part for the war effort. That was until we finally liberated the final piece of the supply puzzle. We have finally secured our route to Earth. As commander of this region's military, I had the honor of delivering the news to the human government, and watched them break down into sobs of joy at the thought of being reunited with their long-lost brothers and sisters. I watched as their soldiers readied themselves for this long overdue homecoming. I was there for the planning staging, but I allowed the human commanders to plan it out themselves. They picked the landing zones, they picked the priority targets, they knew their world better than I did. And here we are, back in the Sol system. Transports loaded with thousands of humans, all ready to join up with the resistance, and measly still operating on their home world. The Swarm's defensive fleet in ruins, thanks to human saboteurs knocking out their early warning systems, giving us the advantage. I stand upon my bridge and wonder. It took only a few million humans to change the trajectory of the galaxy. What will happen when that number swells to the billions? Probably something good. And I look forward to seeing it.